Welcome to the Destiny Network Amplified Podcast. Glad you joined us. If you were with us on the last episode, then you know our special guest is Pastor Matt Keller. He and his wife Sarah started Next Level Church in 2002. It now has 4 locations right here in Lee County, Florida.
Right here,
Just doing an amazing job. Their main campus is literally less than a mile from our church, where we're at. So we've been friends for a long time. He also oversees Next Level Relational Network that has over 200 churches.
200 churches, which is
just
crazy.
incredible what God's done with you, in you, and through you. And man, it's just been an honor to walk this journey together.
Yeah, bro. So appreciate your friendship, man.
But we had a great podcast last time.
Yes, if you missed it, go back and pause now. Go back to that one.
That's right.
That's the foundation.
It's the foundation because we really talked about developing culture. Mm-hmm. We defined it. Mm-hmm. Culture is kind of the way things are in any organization. For us, we say church. We'd probably both adopt the terminology organism more than organization.
Absolutely.
I love that term. And so we've defined it. We don't want to review that. Here's what we know. And it's kind of what we ended on. Yeah, you start building culture, but you never stop working on the culture.
No.
It's something we have to constantly steward.
Yes.
And we have to do it intentionally because just like sometimes there's vision drift, there's culture drift.
Yep.
And especially as growth happens, right?
Right.
So I know, I mean, he's written several books, by the way. One of them is called Up the Middle Church, was the first book he wrote, if I'm not mistaken.
That was a long time ago.
And it's kind of the story of Next Level Church of how a lot of churches get celebrated for like blowing up big. Right. And you just kept doing it up the middle, 2-3 yards at a time, get your first down and keep moving on. That's the whole metaphor the book's built around. Yeah. See, I remember that book, right?
You know what? I appreciate that.
Did that surprise you?
Thank you. Well, how about it? I actually am a little surprised.
And but then it was a moment where like explosive growth started happening.
Yeah. Well, and it's in those explosive growth seasons, and some of you are feeling that. And again, that can be. I mean, we grew by about 1,000 people in about an 18-month period of time. When we moved from being portable in the high school, we were 9 years portable, 4 years in a movie theater, 5 years high school. Then we bought the property right down the street from you guys, and when we became a real church. And had a building, and it was an idea whose time had come, and the hand of God just was on it. And again, we walked together, and you were such a blessing to me in that season, man, of just your faithful friendship, and I'm just thankful for you. And I tell you that privately, and I'm telling you that publicly. But it's in seasons of rapid growth where culture can be tested the most. And again, that can be growing by 1,000 people in 18 months, but it also, hear this, pastors, it also can be adding 30 or 50 people in the fall, in a season. It can be adding 5 new small groups.
One new staff member.
Absolutely.
Right?
Because every time you add a spoke to the wheel, it changes the way the wheel spins. And I think we underestimate that. So one of the illustrations, and hopefully this will help you, that we use, Ryan, is often when we teach on culture, is the idea of cement. That culture is the cement of our organizations or of our churches. And so when cement gets hard, for example, when your church is a certain size for a long period of time, it's a 10 by 20 foot slab of cement. Well, it's hard, it's firm, it's sure, it's consistent. When you step on it, it's going to hold you. But what happens in growth seasons is it's like pouring wet cement on top of that 10 by 20 slab. So now you have a 10 by 20 hard slab, but now you have 3 inches of wet cement that are not only 10 by 20, but it's 20 by 30. So now when you step on it, you're not sure what's safe, you're not sure what's secure, you're not sure what's slippery, you're not sure if you're going to sink through. And so culture is like cement because when you grow, you're pouring wet cement on that. So it's not that the foundation's not in there. Oh, it's in there. But everyone in the church, especially your leaders, your team, start to go, gosh, we've added 100 people over the last year.
And it's exciting.
Right.
And it's wonderful.
Are we still who we said we were? Is the culture still safe? And the thing about cement is, I'll finish the illustration, is that when it's wet, you can form it and shape it into the shape and mold that you want. But once it gets hard, it's not that it can't be changed. It just requires a jackhammer to do it.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, in those wet cement seasons, you got to double down on culture. That we talk about, as we said last time, we talk about culture all the time. Say it, spray it, wheel it, deal it, make them feel it, is how Ed Young Jr. always said it, which I think is funny, but I've never forgotten it. But like, yes, but in a wet cement season, in a rapid growth season, you got to go even harder on culture because the cement's wet.
Yeah, and the challenge becomes is you're probably trying to shore up your systems, change your systems. There's
manage
so
new
many
people.
things to navigate.
Yep.
It's easy to forget about the most important thing,
So
unfortunately.
huge, bro.
Right
Right there.
It's the urgent takes away from the important at times.
That's it.
And I think it's a wake-up call for all of us to say, in those times, you got to go back and make sure. Because literally one person at the right or wrong spot, however you want to say it, within that organism,
that's it,
can shift the culture.
And all of a sudden you wake up a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and you go, hold on. There are air pockets in our cement. There's things in our culture that we didn't want to be in there, and now it's hard.
Yeah, getting them out of there. Jackhammer. Yeah, you got to get the jackhammer, and that's painful not only for you as the leader.
That's right.
It's pain for your people.
For the people,
because oftentimes they will have become bonded to people that are the people through which the things that are in the culture. Sometimes they're not bad. They're just not wanted in that culture.
Right.
They brought something from their other church that might have been great there, but it's not who we are as a church. And then other times it could be toxic to the culture, toxic things. And now you're addressing those things, which oftentimes results in people leaving or getting upset.
Hurt feelings, and you bet.
So
misunderstanding.
Paying attention to this culture
it's massive.
At all times.
Which is why this conversation is so important. So important.
It's challenging. And candidly, it's reminding me of things as we've talked last podcast. And I'm like,
let me write that.
I better make a note and get a meeting set. So when is the right time? When you see something outside of the culture, to deal with it.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
By the time you see it, it's already too late, right?
And bro, the people pleaser in me and in all of us, in so many of us, hears that and goes, because like but it's our job. We get what we create, we get what we allow. Like it is defined or it's defaulted. And when you see it, you got to run at it, big and small. And so let me tell a little of my story, Ryan. So back when our church exploded, and again, you walked with us through that season of just rapid growth and, hundreds of new people and adding services and going multi-site 3 years after we opened this one down, this location and just all of that. In that season, I found myself as a senior leader being very frustrated that I would look on at staff decisions or things and I'm like, seriously? Like, how do you not know that? Like, really? You can't.
Assumptions.
And my wife finally looked at me, and leaders, let me give you a statement she gave me that I think is going to help you. She looked at me one day and she said, hey, Matt, it is not ours to be frustrated, but it is always ours to teach.
Ouch.
And it was kind of that wake-up call for me. So leaders, what I would say to you is, when you find yourself frustrated, go beyond the emotion of whatever your emotion is, anger, sadness, whatever those surface level emotions are, frustration, and go to, this is an opportunity to teach. And then watch this. When you think about the best coaches in sports, to use that analogy, there are two kinds of coaches, right? The player comes over to the sideline and one coach puts his finger in the player's chest and screams at him like this to teach him. The other coach comes around, pulls the player and puts his arm around him and then puts his finger out and explains what he's at the field of the court and says, let me show you how I see it. I had to learn that in leadership because again, in a moment, my frustration is, And God was like, Matt, father them, teach them, pull them, show them how you, don't assume they know how to see this because they don't. And they shouldn't. Like, then that's my job. My job is to teach. Like you said last time, like one of our three main priorities as senior leaders is to put our arm around leaders, young and old, in the house that God's entrusted to us and show them how we see the court. That's how you shape culture. That's how you teach leaders how you think about church and your culture.
That's right. Yeah, that's good. It's so good. I think the line to remember is culture is built one conversation at a time, and it's sustained one conversation at a time.
Absolutely.
And you were talking about, like, how do they not get this? There are things that just like seem so obvious to me, and they're not obvious to everybody, and I don't understand why they're not obvious to everybody.
Right.
And especially for me, I'm growing up as a PK,
Right.
Like,
Yeah, you just
like
you
it's
saw it. You learned to see
there's
it.
just a way that this is done.
Right.
Like, how do you not get this?
Yep.
So the biggest mistake I continue to make over and over again is assumption. I assume that people get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Until then I see, oh my goodness.
Oh.
They don't get
They
it.
don't get it.
So what am I going to do?
Absolutely.
Am I going to complain about it?
Yeah.
Bishop Tony Miller, I got to pull out a quote from
on.
him every once in a while. He
Absolutely.
always said, you can't complain about what you tolerate.
That's it.
So if I let this to stay,
Right.
now it's not their issue.
No.
This is my
That's
fault.
right.
This is my responsibility.
You had an opportunity
So
to teach.
what do I do, and how do I
So
do
good.
this? One conversation
That's it.
at a time.
That's it. Yeah, because
One conversation
there's
at a time.
corporate teaching to it in terms of the teaching the masses of our church, from our staff meetings to team meetings to leadership rallies or leader rallies for us to even on Sundays, working pieces into, and that's why we are who we are here at Next Level, because we believe that so there's pieces of that. But to your point, the most potent way to multiply culture is one conversation at a time.
Yeah.
One-on-one.
So let's talk about this conversation. It's actually when I was thinking about and kind of preparing in my mind for this podcast today, I had a whole nother idea for a podcast topic that I'm probably going to get to at some point.
Let's
and I'm
go.
not sure who's going to be a part of it. It might be Matt. But the whole idea of how to have difficult conversations. Because oftentimes those can be difficult. They don't have to be, but they can be. Sometimes the most difficult thing is just like getting through our head.
Yes.
Right? I think you did one thing. Embrace it as a teaching moment.
That's it.
Right?
It. Yes.
That is one way to shift it from being like this difficult conversation. Hey, let me show you something the way I see it.
Yep.
Now, how that leader responds is going to reflect their heart, which is just going to... We don't have time for that podcast.
Another opportunity to lead them in another direction.
So tell me,
Yeah.
Can you give me like a real life example?
You bet.
Of something maybe recently, without giving anybody away, but like you saw something in your church
Yeah.
that's like, okay, conversation needed. How'd you do it?
Yeah, I think principally, let me see if I can come up with an anecdote while I unpack a few principles of how I think about hard conversations. So the first, number one, that it matters most in hard conversations is you have to clear your heart first. That if you go in and you're still offended and hurt at a heart level, then they're going to feel that. And now the conversation is more about you getting this off your chest than it is about them learning.
Yeah, the language we use here is, do you have a heart of peace or a heart at war?
So good. Right. Yes,
That's-
that.
yeah.
So until you can get to a heart of peace, you're not ready to have that conversation.
100%. Yeah.
So, and then number two, never surprise them with that. So don't just throw it into your one-on-one. Let them know, hey, I want to set up, I got a few things on my heart. I want to set up a time next week for 30 minutes or an hour that you and I can sit and we can share together and we can talk about something. So never surprise people. And then number three, organize your thoughts. Don't wing it. That's not fair to them. We don't like it when people come in and just kind of wing it from their heart with us as Pat. We're like, okay, thanks. Now you're just kind of spewing at me in all sorts of unguided and misdirected directions.
Oh, that never
That's
happens.
not helpful.
That never happens.
And it doesn't feel good. Well,
No,
then
it
let's show them the courtesy of that. So let's be prepared. Let's organize our thoughts, and then let's be able to sit down with them, and then really be able to clear our heart, and then give them an opportunity to respond. And then I would say, lastly, leave that. Make sure you're leaving with clarity, homework, and commitment to what we've learned and what I was trying to teach you. So tell me what you heard me say today. So anecdotally, I think I had a relationship that fell out several years ago, and recently had an opportunity to have a conversation with that person, which was again actually a surprise that the conversation would happen. And so I think what I just shared principally, I think that's what I did. Is I made sure my heart, was in a good place. I created proper expectations in my mind. And then I had a few clear thoughts on scenarios of how this is going to go. And then honestly, for me, Ryan, starting with the question of what's the win of this?
That's right. What's my goal?
What's the win?
And what am I committed to?
Yeah. And so having those components of that made the conversation actually surprisingly very effective for both of us. And so that was just a recent story that came to my head.
Yeah. So how do you know? This is my stance on it. There are times when I see something outside of our culture that is the moment to address it. And there are other times to do what you just said. Let's schedule a meeting.
Right.
So for you, how do you know what the difference is?
Well, let me take it to a staff team or even a volunteer leader level on a Sunday. For Sarah and I, we would go very seldom are those things needing to happen on a Sunday because there's just too much going on. And what's the purpose of a Sunday? It's the people who are coming.
Sure.
So this isn't about us right now, but it doesn't mean we're not putting it on a list somewhere so that it lives. Again, that can be high impact stuff to health stuff. Now, if there's actually something that's going to be detrimental to our attenders on a Sunday morning, then yes, let me pull you aside and say, hey, we can break this down in more detail later this week, but I need you to not say it that way. Like I need and here's how that came across and here's what. So thank you. We'll talk about this later on Tuesday. Like that's great. So now you're correcting in the moment in a life-giving way, but then you're also going, but let's have a 20-minute conversation, not just a 30-second one. But so very seldom is that in the moment on a Sunday, when it comes to the weekend, because it's not about us. It's about those coming. But
what about during the week with us?
Again, I think the sooner you can run at something, the better. So, if someone has an attitude in a team meeting and you feel something that's not our culture, that's not us, then we're going to go, hey man, you hang back for a couple minutes. Let's deal with that as quickly as we possibly can. As long as your heart's okay. But if you're offended and hurt and frustrated and mad, well then take it to the Lord for 24 hours, then reach back out. So, but again, I think the right answer is as soon as possible.
That's so good. So one of the things we started off with this podcast talking about is, when growth happens, when you bring new people in. So the onboarding of new leaders, the onboarding of new staff members, a great opportunity to either open the culture up to things you don't want or to invite them into your culture, right?
Absolutely.
One of the things I've heard as you've been talking of the system that you've already built into some of those things, like you have I think you said a 9-week leadership thing. So you have a system built in so that by the time they're in place leading a team, whether it's volunteer or staff, like they know what the culture is.
Yes.
Now, we don't assume they're going to be able to carry it perfectly every time,
sure.
nor do we expect everybody to. But you've intentionally built systems into that.
Yes. So let me speak to that on a volunteer leader level, which is where you're at right now, so someone goes through our 9-week Excel leadership training program. We lay hands on them, we commission them, they start leading. One of the things that by the end of Excel that they're going to understand is not just the culture, what we do here, who we are here, and what we are here. They're also going to understand our expectation of how we're going to help you continue to grow in your understanding of culture. So now they're not surprised.
They can expect feedback.
Correct.
They can expect
now they're
loving
not surprised.
Conversations.
A month from now, 3 months from now, when we say, hey, can I coach you up on something? Can I help you with something? They go, oh, yeah, I knew this was coming.
Yep.
So for us, it's all about creating those proper expectations. So now your leaders aren't going, what? I thought, and now you got to go back through the offense thing again.
Yeah.
When set them up for that.
That's so good. We have a 2-day leadership training that we do.
Yeah, sure.
Really is the foundational for our leaders.
Yep.
That's one of the ways that we do it. And we introduce them to some of our language. So for us, for you, it would be kind of coach you up. For us, that language would be, hey, can I give you some feedback about something?
Absolutely. That's
it.
Oh,
feedback. Okay.
Yes.
Feedback's our friend.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not getting ready to get hammered.
Yes.
And that feedback could be, dude, that was amazing.
Right.
The way you just handled that situation.
Right. Exactly.
That was totally within the culture of what we're trying to.
That's it.
What we're doing here. And other times it'd be, hey, have you thought about doing it this way? Have you thought about the impact on somebody the way you did it? No, that's not the way you intended it. Right. So some of the language.
Absolutely.
Impact
that's it.
and
So
intent.
normalizing feedback.
Yep.
Matters so much. Let me say this to the leaders out there who maybe you're in a smaller church setting and you're looking on going, okay, that's great, but you guys pastor big churches, like what the heck do we do? Think simple, think small, but think something.
That's really good.
You can front load something, even if that's, hey, let's have an hour lunch. And let me tell you 5 thoughts on how I think, as the lead pastor of our church, how I think about leadership here.
Yeah.
Well, you can do that over a sandwich at lunch and train them and create some expectations. Like, you don't need to be a church of 1,000 or a church of 4,000 or whatever to build all this. Like, again, what we have is built and has taken years to get here.
And it's still in process, like we are.
Yeah, right, exactly, and absolutely. Mm-hmm. But to the little guy out there who's listening, and I get it, you can do this too. So don't just check out and go, yeah, that's cool for you guys, but you guys are big. No, you can do this too, and it is necessary because the cement is wet.
And really,
big or small.
Yeah, I say, and the smaller you are, like, that's a bigger opportunity.
The more potent it is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so less people to have conversations with.
Correct.
Right? Everybody's closer to the spout.
Yep.
So it's a great time
every
to do it
one
now.
of them has way more leverage and influence than for us. We have 500 leaders. If you only have 10 or 12 leaders, well, they're all impacting 10% of the organization. Like, that's
incredible.
So, I mean, so again, don't just write it off or make excuses. Do something. Just keep it simple. Think simple, think small, but think something.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. So the onboarding of leaders.
Yep.
That's really, I love those ideas, but have a system, right? Have some kind of plan.
And we do with our staff as well.
Because I think oftentimes, and this doesn't matter the size church you are, you see somebody with a gift, they've been doing it at another church.
Yep. Let's go.
Awesome. We need this.
Yep.
Right? Just be careful because you don't know what they're bringing from their church. That church might have been great, but that church is not your church.
Well, and people even put that on us. Well, at my last church, I was the
that
praise
might be
the Lord.
That'd be my least favorite. And we did it this way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason you're here and not at your last church.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that you thoroughly get the heart. The reason you love this place is because of all the things we want to make sure are in your heart and your mind, training-wise, before we just put you up there and you start using your gift. Again, from kids ministry to hospitality to worship, there's a way we do it here, and we want to make sure we want to set you up for success, and not just start using your gift too fast. That's kind of how we back our way out of that.
Here's the reality. Whoever we're onboarding, whoever comes to our church, they are bringing who they are. And who they are is their own set of values, sometimes in alignment with the values of the house, the values of our staff, sometimes not in alignment. And I think, and whether it's volunteers or paid staff person, however your ministry team is constructed, Sam Chansep, I think he was the first one I heard say this years ago. We often hire people for what they can do, and we end up firing them for who they are. So if you can reverse that and hire them for who they are, right? It will help on the other end.
Yep.
And I would say same thing with volunteers. If you position people for who they are, not just what they can do, but who they are still comes with this set of values, right?
Yes.
Probably one of the hardest things to do is to flush out who they are. Let's just take it to a hiring context, right? So what are some of the things to think about from a principle standpoint, maybe even practice standpoint, of what we can do as we bring on new hires to be an invitation to them into our culture?
Yes, right. Well, and we have learned so much about this over the last 10 or 15 years.
And how do we usually learn it?
Through mistakes.
The hard way. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
So, for us, and again, we're a bigger, more complex organization now. And so a lot of our HR processes are pretty intense, but for all of us, again, we can all do something. So, for us, the vast majority of our hires are internal, just because of the culture piece. And then we're going to lay hands on no one suddenly, like the Bible says. And so we're going to make sure that however they're leading, we've got game film on them for not just a few weeks or even a few months. We want to make sure we've got game film on you, on your leadership for at least a year, if not more. 2 or 3 years is even better. We want to see you, how you've led, and how you embody the culture. So for us, by the time you hit the staff level conversation of hiring, we've got a lot of game film on people
Mm-hmm.
for a long, long time. And then they always have to be vouched for by like a pastor on our staff.
Mm-hmm.
And so either their location pastor or one of our ELT or somebody, they need to vouch for them, or else they can't even enter the process.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get a pastoral recommendation. And then we have 4 different interviews that we do HR that, again, are pretty intense. I jokingly say, I'm not sure I could get hired at Next Level today. Like, I'm glad I got in when I did. Like, that's why I started it, because I got in early. Like, man, it's okay. So
He actually applied at Life Church, but he didn't make the process.
no, but I got thrown out of the process. Interview 2. It was a rough day. So it was. That's a joke. So anyway, and then once you get hired, I don't even know how many now, Ryan. We have at least 12, probably more like 20. I'm not exaggerating, of culture shaping videos that you have to watch and sign off on. Online, there's questionnaires to answer from the teachings. So probably 10 to 15 video hours of content you have to watch when you get hired at Next Level, no matter from the lowest level to the whatever.
Even if you've been in the culture?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
You come through your school of ministry and all
yes.
that stuff, right?
We have students who've been with us 4 hours,
Right?
SEU at NLC,
Yeah.
as our college.
Yeah.
Students, including my son, who was raised in the house.
Yeah.
He has, when you get hired at Next Level, which he did a year ago, there's an onboarding. You have to watch between probably 12 and 20 videos that are just culture shaping, things that vocabulary terms, words we use that are going to matter to how you lead here. And so that's across the board with our staff.
Right. So most of us, including me, aren't at the place
Right,
where
exactly.
our organism is that
Right.
complex.
Exactly. No, it's complex.
We're much more simplified, and yet there are intentional things that
Correct.
we do.
Right. Do
at
something.
everything.
That's
you
it.
need to do something.
Yep, that's it. Again, that could be 3 conversations. Like,
Right.
hey, are we a buddy system?
Yeah.
Hey, well, let me pair you up with someone who's been on our staff for 5 years.
Yep.
When for the first 6 months, once a month, you're going to sit with them because there's your supervisor. But then, okay, well, then meet with that person and just ask culture questions. That kind of stuff goes a long way toward while the cement's wet.
Yeah. One of the things that we do is with hires, whether they've been in the church already, come up through the church, or the few from outside that we've hired, is that we have a values thing that we want to find out what are their core values. Because oftentimes it's not vision things that cause us to conflict. It's actually this internal value. Like, this is so important to me, and now we have a values conflict, right? So we have a whole list of values, and we ask them to boil it down to like a list of 10. And then we want to get it down to like the top 5. Like, these are non-negotiables for who they are. And if we see that there's an area that would conflict, then we're like, nah.
Right. Let's address it on the front.
They might be a great person, but this values thing is going to be a problem. I think of a past staff member that we had, and I'll never forget the day that I realized that one of their core values didn't even show up in my top 25. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there can be that many top values, but and I just, that's really interesting. And hindsight being 2020, it was probably that.
That was the rub.
It could have been the rub. Could have been. I'm not saying it was, but
sure.
it could have been the rub. And so,
and again, even small churches can do that. Like, all that's on the line.
But those
that's
value
not
things
hard
actually
to find.
create the culture issue.
Absolutely.
Right? That is
It's
what
so good,
creates the cultural conflict, and that we want to avoid. You can't avoid it all. Right? But there are some things that we can do.
Absolutely.
Because we're stewards of the culture to say,
yes.
is this person might be greatly talented, anointed, can lay hands on everybody and see them recover, right? They can preach the paint off the walls, whatever you want to say there about your context of church. An incredible communicator, great leader, just might not be a fit in our church because this is the culture, right? And we want to guard the culture.
That's it.
We want to guard the culture. So what an incredible conversation. Last thing. What's the last bit of advice around culture that you want to give to the pastors and leaders? A parting thought.
Yeah, I would say culture is way more important than you think it is. You probably need to be way more intentional about your culture than you're being. Like, you probably need to up it a notch or two. It's way more rewarding than you can possibly imagine.
That's really good. I said the last thing, but now I thought of 2 more things while you're talking. Is it possible to be too vigilant about your culture?
I don't think so. Because let me go all the way back to where we started at
Yeah.
the end of last session podcast was culture's the soil that vision grows in.
Yeah.
And so just like a diligent gardener is always managing and being tentative to and aware of the soil that they're planting their precious plants in, so we as shepherds must be vigilant with the soil that God has entrusted us to plant this beautiful vision called our local church in.
So good. All right. So here's the last thing. I said there are two things. So this is the last thing. If we were going to resource pastors today, turn them onto a resource that can help them, what would you recommend?
Henry Cloud, Boundaries for Leaders book, which he talks about the creator allow, that whole quote is in there. It's massively, he's so simple, but it's massively important. It's an older book, but it's so still relevant today. The New Testament.
Wow.
Every letter that Paul wrote was a culture letter.
That's really good.
Every letter he wrote was to churches that he had planted or that he was pastoring, even apostolically, and cared and had a burden for. And so every letter he wrote was shaping culture in that local church. And that was their means to do that back then, was letter writing. And so if you study the New Testament letters through, especially the Pauline letters, through the lens of what's the issue and what's the culture he's trying to create in that church, you'll see the New Testament completely different.
That's a great thought. I was just thinking about what resource I might recommend. And
yeah.
The only one that's coming to my mind.
New Testament, bro.
Yeah. I can't top the New Testament. He kind of dropped the mic on that one.
But if there was another one, it would definitely be.
That's the best one,
That's
obviously.
the best one.
Man, it's like, now I can't even say it.
No, you got to say it.
No, so
Help us.
There's several that I've read, but for some reason, this is the one that's coming to my mind is Sam Chan's book, Cracking Your Church's Culture Code.
Yes, absolutely great.
Another good book. So we want to resource you. We want to help you in any way we can. Hey, reach out to me, Ryan@lifechurch.net. Would love to chat with you about culture. Would love to maybe set you up with somebody that can help you pull out what's in you so that you can be real intentional about building, setting, and sustaining the culture of your church, because what God's called you to do is so important that we want you to be diligent to pay attention to the culture. So thanks for joining the Destiny Network Amplified podcast. So glad you did. Before you go, I want to remind you about Affecting Destiny coming up September 22nd through the 24th in Clewiston. Go to destiny-network.com, click on events, and get registered right now for Affecting Destiny.